got a saying within Salt Essential IT, if you want technology to advance and to move forward, put Vanessa, Maresch and Johann Van Rooyen in a room. They will be debating the pros, the cons, the advantages and disadvantages of any technology, any time of day. Ladies and gentlemen, from service to sentience, how 2 decades of IT are rewriting trust, power, and the human future. Please welcome to the stage Johann Van Rooyen, Technology Security Specialist, and Vanessa Maresch, Marketing and Empowerment Specialist of Salt Essential IT.
Thank you for the time this morning. So Christopher was quite right in saying, and I think that's why he chose this slot for us, because Johann and I can get into endless debates at the office and away from the office in WhatsApp debates as well, because we have widely diverse perspectives on technology. So we will try to keep it brief because we know that we have a lot lined up for you today, but let's entertain you a little bit with the Vanessa and Johann debate on the last 2 decades, or actually the decade prior from 2010, and we are going to talk about what's going to happen what's happening now and what we expect to be happening in 2030. So with you, Johann.
Good morning. How are you? Good. All right, so we're going to start with the 2010 to 2020, and depending if you were in sales or in technology, in the technical field, virtualization in around about 2010 became mainstream, where we moved away from physical pizza servers into virtualization, where virtualization became not just mainstream, but the way how we could copy data, transfer data, and build our disaster recovery systems changed massively pre-2000 as it was pre-2010. And that again created something else that takes us into the next step, which Vanessa is so passionate about, is where we take control out of the IT people's hand and give it to the Californians in America.
Which is the cloud. So I am a very passionate cloud user, and Johann is quite right in saying that yes, where a company was registered that owns that technology, they are bound by that country's laws. It's not just the Americans, by the way. It's all countries in the world. They do have access to a certain extent, and I think this is where the trust conversation needs to start, because not just trusting, but actually knowing what your cloud provider is doing with your data. And I love to ask this in my cybersecurity awareness sessions, and I always say, hey, who uses Gmail? And then all the hands go up, and then who read the terms and conditions? Not so much. Now for us personally, and we'll get to that a little bit later, not reading those terms and conditions, not understanding what access we are giving to who, to our information, it can be very invasive. But for companies, it really becomes critical that you do understand what you are giving to these tech giants. And it's a two-edged sword, and Johann will disagree with me here, but even if you've got on-premises infrastructure, to a certain extent, you are giving your data or access to your data to someone else or outside of the organization. So just interesting on cloud, it was in between 2010 and 2020 that the cloud or the technology giants really launched their cloud services. We saw Amazon, AWS launching, we saw Microsoft, we saw Google, and fun fact, Salt Essential IT actually set up and deployed the first hosted exchange in Africa in 2008 for MTC. So we were actually before the tech giants. So maybe that makes us to a certain extent a tech giant. But yes, cloud adoption, I believe firmly we should embrace, because the benefits far from me outweigh the risks. And I'm not saying we should put everything in the cloud, but know what the providers have access to, make sure that you are comfortable with what you are putting in the cloud, and obviously we don't want to put everything there, But if it were not for cloud, we would not have collaboration, we would not have real-time authoring.
So the thing is, the burst of AI is here. The regulation of AI hopefully is going to get better, but it's here. And the changes coming on AI is, firstly, that it's ever happening. The next generation of AI will be, I would say, we will see the next generation of AI or AGI within the next year. It's not going to be somewhere in the distant future. Vanessa, remote work, something that me and Elon Musk feels the same, go to work.
You know, they say he's a narcissist.
Don't sit at home.
They say he's a narcissist.
Well, he's a very effective narcissist with a very good business.
We will agree to disagree. But just quickly before we move to remote work, just on the AI, just interestingly enough, AI has been around since the 1950s. I'm a very big AI fan. And the reason why we have Microsoft and Claude in the room is because, very importantly, Johann was touching on Gemini, and believe me, I'm a very big Google fan when it comes to marketing. Everything, scanning your Meta, scanning your WhatsApps, and we can use that to position Salt's products and services to you. So from a marketing point of view, I love them, but when it comes to enterprise security, compliance, privacy, risk, then we like to limit ourselves to the systems that have been built with ethics by design, which is Claude, which is Copilot. So,
so do you think Claude and Copilot doesn't give out data?
Well, that depends again. If you went into your settings and you switched the button off to train the model.
And did you have a look at how the large language models work on both of those technologies? What are they based on?
I did data.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, no, not. Well,
so they're
okay.
based on the open.
Let me clarify. You are 100% correct, Johann. So ChatGPT, OpenAI, started off as an open model, and it was basically a copy-paste for the likes of Gemini and Claude. Microsoft was a little bit different there. They at least went to OpenAI and signed an agreement with them to bring ChatGPT technology into the Microsoft world, but subject to enterprise security, privacy, and compliance. So we can agree to disagree on this point as well. But if you are having, I always say, you can have, when it comes to AI, you are allowed to have 2 husbands or 2 wives, or a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and I prefer mine to be Claude and Copilot.
Good. So
and by the way, my Copilot is a female voice and my Claude is a male voice. Just
I actually made mine all women, because it's the only time I get the word, oh, I'm sorry. It's the only time I hear that sentence from a woman's voice.
But over to remote work. Thanks, Johann. I think I've covered it in the previous one. I think it's just been accelerated. Hybrid work, flexible work, remote work. Again, coming with the potential of having an impact on mental and physical health that we need to be aware of. And a large part of this is teaching our people how to use technology. That notifications button can be put off after hours. And also how to teach, and I try to avoid this, and my team can confirm if I'm managing, sometimes I don't. If you have to work over a weekend, please delay delivery. Don't let them be getting emails over a weekend. Yeah, it just upsets people and gives them stress. Same goes for WhatsApp. But all right, I think we can move over to the last one.
Rather move on before we have a discussion on work from home and so on, yeah. So, quantum computing, I don't know who had a look into how it works and how that's going to affect us going forward. So, quantum computing in the general sense is digital. How we know digital computing has only 2 states. And do we know what those 2 states are? It's on or off. In basic terms, we have bits, and it's an on or it's an off. Quantum computing can have both states at once. So on and off can be one state in a single point in time. If we go back into processing, the normal digital Intel RISC processing was 1s and 0s. We could do only so much with that. Then we started creating cores in a CPU to have what we call today multitasking.
Which is a lie.
Which is a lie. Multitasking was never, there wasn't something like multitasking ever. It was more of time slicing or having dual or quad or 30 cores with each one doing a singular job at a certain point in time. Where quad computing is different, it can do in its basic form, and that's basically what science tells us, is it can do 4 things at once. Now, the parallel processing point of quantum computing, in a basic form, to explain it, if you take a maze and you have 100 paths, but only one takes you out to freedom. If you remember these old maze games, yeah. So with a digital computer or digital processing, it starts at the starting point, runs until it makes the failure, and restarts the process again, and runs to a different maze. How can I say, one of the paths again. So but if you do it fast enough, it looks like you are doing multitasking, right? So, because it's fast enough. Quantum computing starts at the point and sends a process in all directions, in all different paths, and then tells the one that came out by doing entanglement how it came out and what you need to do, where you are to move back and come out. So entanglement is the part where parallel processing becomes more of a reality, where one qubit in America can connect to a qubit within South Africa, and both can do the same calculations, or the one can tell the other that it already solved a certain problem. So here is the answer to whatever the answer should be. Right, so that's the basics of quantum computing. Is it something you're going to see in your phone? Not very likely. It's not something we're going to see on the phone, but where we see it going to, and where, let's call it the scientists, some of these things are still in theory and some is still in labs, and it's a typical science talk of theory, and where this can go is where quantum computing will take AI into the form of AGI, or artificial general intelligence, which will be the next step in AI. So that has not happened yet, as far as I know. Next month, we never know how quickly these guys work, but that is where we're going with quantum computing, that will later be using AGI as one of its calculation methods.
So maybe to give you a practical and advanced technology seems like magic. And if you're looking at a lot of the technology we're seeing today, except the flying cars. Back to the Future, we failed you. We don't have flying cars yet. We have hoverboards, but if you take it back to sci-fi movies, this is typically where in Star Trek, it was Star Trek, not Star Wars, yeah, Star Trek, where they could teleport people. That is going down to quantum level. So it is very advanced, but the thing is that we are seeing exponential growth in technology and in knowledge. And this is just some interesting facts here. 1000 BC to 1700s, knowledge doubled every 1,800 years. I want you to wrap your mind around it. By 1945, it doubled every 25 years. Today, it's doubling every year. So I want you to think about this when we think of our children and we think of calling them the stupidest generation. Because they are only as good as they've been taught by their parents and the educational system. And we are the ones shoving the devices into their hands without giving them guidance. But my point here is that if you want to start studying today, the amount of knowledge you need to have is humanly impossible. We cannot learn that in a degree. We need a baseline, and this is where AI is very strong. It helps us reduce the noise, focus on where we are as humans, that are our traits, and helps us achieve more, not just from a productivity point of view. And here I'm going to bring the creativity card in, because there's always someone that tells me, AI is creative. If you've seen it make songs, AI is not creative. It doesn't have a creative bone in its body. It merely takes what is existing and it learns from it. It repurposes and reformulates existing data either from the internet or from a data source that you gave it. But this is where, when we're talking about advanced AI, agentic AI, the super intelligence of the future, that we need to understand our role and we need to appreciate the role we are playing and the guidance we are giving to youth as to how to use AI. And I always, if you've attended one of my sessions, you will remember I always have a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger there, because he's not going to be back in the future to save us. Okay? We are the designers, the creators, the moderators, the governors, the legislators. We are the people using this technology. And we need to use this. We need to use the tools that have ethics and security by design. Because we are building this super intelligence. It will come. The cat is out of the bag. And unfortunately, legislation, regulation is always slow because technology works so fast. It's not a traditional industry. It's going at, as we saw, exponential growth. So we have to play a role today in how we shape this future when we're talking about advanced AI and super intelligence, because it is going to happen sooner than we think. Then we move over to sustainability, and we need to start wrapping up, Mr. Van Rooyen. I know it's one of your favorite topics.
Yeah, so we're talking about in the future there will be sustainability focus, that IT will move towards green data centers. You see what's happening in the last 2 months. It's for me at the point where the greenies were, don't do this, cut down charcoal. But now doing data centers and doing water cooling and all sorts of different ways of getting these data centers to cool down. Now all of a sudden nobody talks about the power problem. Now we're quite happy about using the power, but 4 years ago using coal was a problem and nuclear was a problem. So for me, what I see, what's currently happening is we're using a lot of power. Is AI going to change that and come up with a solution for us? I really do hope so, but at this point, and where we see the future, power will be needed much more power worldwide that we currently have. The figures, I guess, is something I have no idea of, and the same for, I think, even the guys building this, they don't have an idea of where this is going, but power will become, according to me, non-sustainable, at least for the next 4 years, but we're going to use quite a lot of it, and we're going to need quite a lot of it to drive technology forward.
This is very expensive, not just financially, but it will also very expensive on the environment. That's why we do not use Claude or Copilot, we don't use Gemini, we don't use those things to do something we can do in Excel. Because the environmental footprint of using AI is significant, and I'd love to believe, Johann, and I am an optimist, so I'm going to believe that AI might be able to solve this for us, but currently it is very, very heavy on the environment. The environmental footprint, this is why we also see it's so hungry when it comes to power and heat, why we see Mr. Musk launching data centers in space, Microsoft putting them under the ocean. So I hope environmental studies would know that as well. But yes, so it is a bone of contention we need to be aware of. And I want to end off our session today just by talking about a little bit in the future. And it was interesting because I did research. I was very big. If anybody was at the first Techhuddle 4 years ago, we had a session where we looked at the Microsoft Mesh, which is, they're in Roblox, they're in Fortnite, wherever they are. And oddly enough, it was sort of like a flying car. People thought it was going to take off and going to take over the world, but it didn't. And I think, I like to believe it's because people have become more aware of the invasiveness of specific kinds of technologies. I mean, AR and VR tracks your eye movements. If you've got a smart watch, it tracks your heartbeat. This is extremely personal information. And now, coupling that with what's going on in terms of our tech giants putting profit over people, it becomes a very big concern because they are using all that stuff for marketing and advertising purposes. One of the highlights of my year was the fact that in Kentucky, Meta had to settle because the court found that their algorithm is highly addictive to children, also to grown-ups, but I mean, targeting children and having them locked in by addictive behaviors into using technology so that they can eventually buy things. Very unethical. So yes, it comes with these risks. It's not going to be around. The gaming industry has always led this. They have always, and everybody says, oh, why is there a new version? Why is there a new processor? Why is there this? Why does everything have to be faster? You can all blame the gamers. It's all their fault. They are, to a large extent, always the ones requiring what is new and what is great. So that, I think, wraps it up from my side. Johann, is there anything you want to say?
Where's AR and VR really located?
In the cloud.
Ah, there we go.
Well,
All right.
it's debatable. I guess that the gamers can land it and play it from a local PC. I'm not a gamer, so I won't know. But thank you, Johann. I think everybody hears your concerns, and they've heard my excitement. And I think together we give you a good middle way for you to actually use technology in an appropriate way. So there's the QR code. Please scan it in if you want to connect with me or Johann on any of these topics, or if you just want to join us for a debate outside the SALT offices, you are welcome to reach out to us and engage with us. We are here for you. So that being said...
Yeah, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I think the break is going to...
No, first we've got 2 more
sessions.
We will try to move through them a little bit faster. We know we're a little bit late. And then we will connect also at the break time. We're around.
Both of us is here during the day, so
we're around.
You can question us anytime.
Thank you so much.